Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. It's the first Monday after rotation, and you know what that means. First tournament review of the new standard. Now, relatively few of the decks that were dominant up to rotation were destroyed outright by the loss of Theros Block and M15. Don't expect to see Izzet artifacts or anything, but decks like Obzan Control and Esper Dragons are alive and well. Battle for Zendikar also brought with it a new cycle of dual lands that work amazingly well with fetch lands. That means that for the 6 months before Khans of Tarkir rotates out, standard mana is going to be smoother than ever. The two new decks we'll be looking at this week take advantage of that and run 4 to 5 colors each. We'll start with a rundown of the final standings before looking at the decks in depth. Brian DeMars won the day with the Tarka Red. Michael Majors took second with Green-White Megamorph. Third place went to Jeff Crutchcow running Esper Dragons. In fourth place we had Adam Varner with Jeskai Black. Jerry Thompson finished fifth with 5-color Bring to Light. Clay Spickelmeyer took sixth with another rather different Jeskai Black deck. Seventh place went to Patrick Howe running another build of Esper Dragons. Finally, Bradley Carpenter picked up eighth with Obzan Control. With that said, let's take a look at our new deck, starting with Jeskai Black. Conceptually, this deck is simple enough. Start with a Jeskai Shell. That gives you cards like Manus Rider, Jace, Dig Through Time, Jeskai Charm, Ojutai's Command, Valorous Dance, and Wild Slash. Then you add Black. Adam Varner's deck used black mana to include a Butcher of the Horde and a place at a Crackling Doom. Now, Butcher of the Horde usually pairs with token generators. While this deck had no Dragon Fodder or Hordling Outburst, it did include a place at a Hangerback Walker. The Walker is a potent threat in its own right, and sacrificing it to power up a Butcher also gives you tokens to continue to sacrifice to the Butcher on subsequent turns. New cards on Varner's list were Gideon Ally of Zendikar and Dragon Master Outcast. Okay, technically not a new card, but one that only just rotated into Standard, well those and lands. You'll notice a running theme across the decks we're looking at today. The Battle for Zendikar duels allow them to run huge numbers of fetch lands. Only 2 decks in this top 8 ran fewer than 10 fetch lands. This deck had 11, 4 Bloodstained Mire, 4 Polluted Delta, and 3 Flooded Strand. This allowed it to grab its Prairie Streams, Smoldering Marshes, Sunken Hollow, or any of a variety of basics. Clay Spickelmeyer's Jeskai Black build had several differences from Adam Varner's. Most of these differences were in the creature base. He omitted Hangerback Walker and the Butcher in favor of Abadakero Keep, Soulfire Grandmaster, Dragonlord Ojutai, and one of Tasigur. He also ran 2 Kolaghan's Command instead of going all in on a place at a Crackling Doom. Omitting Gideon and a few one-ofs allowed him room to fit in 3 each of Draconic Roar and Treasure Cruise. Next up, let's take a look at Jerry Thompson's 5-color Bring to Light. On a basic level, this deck is built on an Obzan Control Shell. We see that come through in the fairly small creature base, including Siege Rhino and Nissa Vastwood Seer, and a large number of removal spells like Obzan Charm and Murderous Cut. Some of the new additions are new or not often used cards within those colors. Guiltleaf Winnower, Reeve Soul, and Utter End all fit that category. The rest of the deck is additions that run off of the availability of blue mana. That accounts for Jace Vryn's Prodigy, Silumgar the Drifting Death, Sultai Charm, Ugin's Insight, and the marquee card Bring to Light itself. Basically, this deck starts with Obzan Control and adds blue for consistency in the form of draw spells and Bring to Light. That card is a redundant playset of anything in the deck short of Silumgar, which is one off. It's also why the 5-color mana base is important. You may have noticed that despite being a 5-color deck, there are no red cards in the main deck. Red mana is there for 2 reasons. Radiant Flames on sideboard, and more immediately, being able to Bring to Light for 5. Despite the fact that the deck runs 9 one-ofs, 8 of them cost 5 mana or less, meaning Bring to Light can hit them. In other words, you won't need them every game, but you'll always have them when you do need them. That's our new decks out of the way. Let's take a look at the updates to existing decks. First up is our tournament winner, Tarka Red. Remember what I said about fetch lands before? This deck runs 10 of them, almost half of its lands, despite the fact that most of its cards can be cast just on red mana. The creature base is familiar: Abbot of Karo Keep, Lightning Berserker, Swift Spear, Zurgo, Chandra, but adds one of McKindy's Slide Runner to take advantage of fetch lands and the extra land drop mode on Atarka's command. This deck also runs 3 Become Immense, where we rarely saw this deck run more than 1 before rotation. The more consistent green mana makes it easier to cast, and even with the high cost, often only 1 is necessary to close out a game out of nowhere. Next, we'll look at green-white Megamorph. The only big addition here outside of lands is Gideon ally Zendikar. In most cases, he's useful just as 4-mana Glorious Anthem coming down and immediately going off the table to his -4. Other cards that are back in force here are Warden of the First Tree, Deathmist Raptor, and Wingmate Rock. Theros block rotating took away some of the aggressive green-white deck's creature options like Soldier of the Pantheon and Fleecemane Lion. The aforementioned 3 creatures fill in the gaps nicely. In particular, the Den Protector Deathmist Raptor synergy is as strong as ever. Next up is Esper Dragons. We saw a couple different approaches to updating this deck. Jeff Crutchcow added 2 Silumgar the Drifting Death as well as a lot of the new control tech from Battle for Zendikar. Complete Disregard, Horribly Awry, and Scatter to the Winds all find a place here, replacing cards like Bioblight and Dissolve. Since the deck is essentially 2 colors at its core, splashing white only for Dragonlord Ojutai, it only runs 8 fetch lands, which is actually unusual for the standard. However, it also includes 2 Blighted Fen. Maybe we'll see decks that aren't just going 4 or 5 colors picking up some of these uncommon lands for value. Patrick Cow's take on Esper Dragons just went with 1 Silumgar but also added 4 Jace Vryn's Prodigy. 1 Complete Disregard and 1 Horribly Awry did make an appearance as in Crutchcow's list. However, Cow added Clash of Wills and Ojutai's Command rather than Scatter to the Winds. 2 Ruinous Path also put in an appearance, giving the deck another option to turn the corner in the late game. The addition of Ojutai's Command necessitated the inclusion of more white mana, leading to Shambling Vent taking the utility land slot over Blighted Fen. Let's wrap things up with a look at Bradley Carpenter's Obzan Control. This deck is very familiar, with many of its new cards clearly taking the place of or otherwise filling in for cards lost to rotation. Gideon ally of Zendikar fills in for Elspeth Sun's Champion as a late-game closer and token producer. Meanwhile, Ruinous Path takes over for Hero's Downfall. Despise fits into the slot left behind by Thoughtseize since this format is rather creature-heavy, and Duress and Transgress the Mind can come in from sideboard depending on the matchup. And while this deck is light on fetch land, since it only has 1 on-color fetch and 1 on-color battle land, that does give it room to fit Shambling Vent as a playset. And that wraps up our first look at the new standard. What do you think? Are you ready to live in a 4-color world, or would you rather just stick with 2 colors and have perfect mana forever? Let me know how you feel about the direction of new standard in the comments. I'm pretty freaking excited about this. Look forward to so many deck techs. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.